Welcome to this episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Odd with your hosts, Mark and Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
Hi, hey. Right, we are doing something that we haven't touched for a little while. We were going back to Hammer. Now, last one we did was Brides of Dracula, which was a while ago. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that was quite a fun one.
That was a pretty good one. Did that in, hold on, I don't want to say a date. I want to give it, well, it must be 9-10 months ago. That's how long ago it was. Amazing. But we did not, that was our 9th entry. So before that, we'd gone through like Quatermass, X the Unknown, Quatermass 2, Curse of Frankenstein, Dracula. What else? How did the Baskervilles? We covered that. And The Mummy.
Okay, yeah.
So Brides of Dracula was the last one. This one is Hammer's run another classic horror tale, which is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In fact, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson from 1886. There's various film versions of this, well before this film. In fact, this is one of the few that Universal didn't do. Someone else, another studio, picked up Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, so it wasn't a Universal one, but they had a run up at it. It starred, the main star is Paul Massey, who plays Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but it also, significantly has got Christopher Lee. Also, Dawn Adams plays this his unfaithful wife, Dr. Jekyll's unfaithful wife, and there's also an old friend of Dr. Jekyll played by an actor called David Kossoff. Directed by Terence Fisher, as of almost all the last 5 or 6 we've watched, all directed by Terence. Terence Fisher was a bit of a powerhouse in Hammer. And you can kind of see it's a Terence Fisher film. He does it in a certain way, doesn't he? He uses the film stocks a certain look and feel. Everyone kind of knows who Hammer looks like. So Paul Massey was the lead. He's an interesting actor. I've only ever seen him in 2 things. And before I watched this film, I'd only ever seen him in 1 thing. He was like the straight man in a comedy film by a British comic called Tony Hancock called The Rebel, which is a really great, fun film about like a guy who goes to Paris to be an artist. He's terrible, but everyone thinks he's a genius by various means, and not by deceit, but he talks a lot of bullshit and they buy it, kind of things. It was kind of fun. Anyway, Paul Massey's in that, and he's plays Dr. Jekyll here. Now, interesting spin on the towel. In this one, it's an old, miserable Dr. Jekyll and a fun, kind of manic Mr. Hyde, right?
Yeah.
Young as well, young Mr. Hyde.
That's the flip-flop. It's Jekyll is kind of pining for... He's not even really pining for his own youth. He just wants to have like a social life.
He wants some fun, but he's locked himself away in his studies or in his experiments for years, trying to pursue this thing. Ignored his wife pretty much. His wife does have to be unfaithful, so it's a case of, was she always horrible? So he kind of carried on with his experiments, or did him locking himself away cause her to start sort of straying? He's one of those things. It's never quite kind of resolved, but it's kind of one of those relationships. But he's a miserable old sod, isn't he? He's. I read a review of this on Letterboxd that summed it up for me, which is, Dr. Jekyll's a miserable arsehole, and Mr. Hyde's a joyous arsehole, which kind of feels that way. Now, apparently, this film reflects something that Terence Fisher often tried to bring to the screen, which he called the charm of evil. So that's kind of interesting. Now, pretty much all the other versions of this film to this point, and the story really, Dr. Jekyll's, well regarded. He looks fine. He looks good. He's usually presentable and stuff like that. He's not like old and decrepit like he is in here, pretty much. And it's Mr. Hyde becomes the kind of ugly, twisted one. Not so much in this, right? Not so much.
No. He's it's very much it's kind of more Nutty Professor than Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Nutty Professor feels like it's riffing on this version of the story. In fact, I think I made the comparison, and you hadn't put it together that it was a Jekyll and Hyde. No. Nutty Professor wasn't even a Jekyll and Hyde story until I sort of mentioned it in passing while we were watching it. Right. So in this one, he's got a wife called Kitty who's cheating cheating on him with his best friend, it appears, Paul, or rather a good friend, called Paul Allen. I don't think he's a character in the book, who played by Christopher Lee. What do you think of Christopher Lee in this?
It was weird seeing Christopher Lee as not like either the main protagonist or the antagonist. Because he's like the big name, usually. Yeah,
I mean, he was a supporting character, but he was in quite a lot of it. He had almost as much screen time as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I dug his sideburns. You catch those sideburns?
Oh, yeah. Those were huge.
They were like bigger versions of Captain Kirk's sideburns, weren't they? I got a feeling Captain Kirk was copying this, actually. He was all right. He played the love interest, but he also played he's a kind of a bit of a scoundrel. He's a gambler, isn't he? He's a gambler and likes to have a good time. I'm not sure if he's carrying. I think he's carrying on with other women as well. But Kitty, the Mrs. Jekyll, is sort of carrying on with him, kind of under Jekyll's nose. Yeah. Also, he's tapping money from Jekyll, isn't he, to fund his gambling habit?
Yeah, he's quite blatant about this. So.
Yeah, and Jekyll has been funding him. However, it does start with Jekyll showing his old friend Ernst, played by David Kossoff, his experiments with his serum, where he injects his timid little monkey who starts going mental in its cage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was kind of cool. Like it shows more development of the serum than I think I've ever seen in any sort of adaptation. Normally it's just, I have this thing and I'll drink it and Monster Man.
Yeah. In this one, it's kind of, he injects the monkey starts going mad in its cage. I said to you at the time, I wonder how they got the monkey to do that, and you had an idea, didn't you?
Yeah, I reckon it was like they heated the cage or something, because, didn't really care about animal welfare back then. So the
monkey was going nuts. Anyway, he finally injects himself, and when he comes to, he's young, handsome, and happy. Manic, with a manic look in his eye, right? And who did not care. Now, it's interesting that Jekyll was obsessed with removing the evil side of man's nature with his experiments, and he was going on about separating the emotional and the logical, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And it's very. You made a very interesting point when watching it, that Hyde is actually also making a case that he's the logical side.
Yeah.
And while his other version, Dr. Jekyll's the emotional one.
Dr. Jekyll feels way too much. He's just like, because of that, he's like hidden away. So you end up with Hyde, who just does, when he does feel stuff, he just does it, because why wouldn't you? That's the cold logic of it. Why shouldn't you?
Yeah, and he starts hanging around debauched places. He encounters a young Oliver Reed. He insults this woman, doesn't he? He calls her a trollop or something. Basically, he's dancing with her, then he notices his own wife dancing with Christopher Lee, and so he kind of, I've got to go. And this woman says, hey, you can't lead a girl on. He goes, get off me, you whore, or something like that.
He's very rude.
He don't care. And she goes and moans to Oliver Reed, who then approaches him and gets a right old beating, doesn't he?
Hyde pulls him onto the table, and Christopher Lee's character, Paul, punches him. And then Hyde picks up, a goblet, like a metal cup, and just starts clubbing him in the head. And, you can see that Paul's kind of on board with it for a moment. He's like, you need to stop, man. You need to stop.
You're going to kill him.
Yeah, you're going to kill him.
What was your feeling about the film in general?
I quite enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too.
So.
For a couple of reasons, I really enjoyed it. I think the central performance was pretty good. I think Hyde in particular was an interesting character. Did it, and also I like the fact the story wasn't predictable. I kind of wasn't sure it was going at any point, and I kind of like that. And it's it feels almost like it's made up as it went along, almost, but it still kind of works. Yeah. Did Hyde remind you of anyone?
Not really.
No, I felt there was a touch of the Joker in there, actually.
A little. Well, I guess you could just say that this is inspired by The Man Who Laughs, sort of thing.
Yeah, he did look a bit like The Man Who Laughs. Also, he reminded me of kind of a young Jack Nicholson in his weird, wild-eyed look. I like that. Some of the things I didn't like were they spent way too much of this film filming a dancer with a snake. There was like a 3-4 minute segment of a woman dancing with a snake who becomes his like lover, and she's like a pretty bad actress, so we don't really care that much about her. And then there's also quite an extended scene of can dancers.
Yeah, I think they hired them, and then they realized like, oh, these girls are going to be in like maybe 2 shots. So they just filmed a lot of B-roll of them just to get their money's worth. And then realized they needed dancers, yeah, they were good dancers, but it did like drag on. And there was a lot of like Hyde walks around the corner, and then a couple of minutes of the dancers, and then someone else walks around the same corner, and then a couple of minutes of the dancers.
Yeah,
and it just kept going on and on.
Also, we do see Hyde. Now, I thought this was going to be a plot development, but it turns into nothing really, not much at all, or maybe a bit, where there's all these children playing in his garden, and this woman brings these. I think they're dumb children. They can't speak or something, or one of them can't speak, and he's helping the children because he likes the children. But at one point he becomes kind of mean to the children, which kind of highlights the change in his character and all this. But yeah, he keeps flipping back between Hyde, and the Hyde stuff's kind of fun. Then it starts to become not involved with the serum, it looks like, right? He just switches after a time, and it's whether it's triggered. Which is kind of like other versions of this story, right? Sometimes it gets to a point where they can't control the changing, and it's kind of a variant on, I don't know, the werewolf story, say, right?
Yeah.
And there are other characters in popular literature have this sort of change from one to another, isn't there? Kind of stuff. Like the Hulk.
Based on Jekyll and Hyde, the Hulk. So.
Yeah. So Hyde, it's an interesting way it approaches it. He makes friends with Christopher Lee, even though he's carrying on with his wife, and says, "I'll cover all your debts if you show me London." And we get like a montage, a fairly early montage, right? But we get a montage of him like in all these down and out places. We get opium smoking. We get
opium dens, like bare knuckle boxing. They're just enjoying drinks and all sorts of stuff. And like a couple of days later, he's burnt through all of London and all the money he got given for.
And Hyde says, "What's next?" And he goes, "We've done everything." He goes, "You're joking. London's only good for a week." And stuff like that. In fact, I also thought he was going to join in the bare knuckle boxing and like beat a guy to death or something like that, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, we kept expecting him to like start killing people because that's kind of just what Hyde does. So, but he only really kills like 3 people.
Yeah. So, when he gets angry, or actually, one of them is kind of a logical death. It's not an anger death. It's like to cover his tracks death, isn't it? It's kind of bit dark, but basically he's got no morals. He's got no moral compass. Yeah. That's essentially it's a psychopath
and 100% impulse.
Yes,
like he literally just sees something. It's like, oh, I'm going to take part in that, and no one could really stop him. So
and it's kind of a striking looking character too. So like women, this woman falls for him straight away, and she's got this. She's got a python, but she says it's an asp, but it's poisonous, and that does feed into the story later as well.
Yeah.
But essentially, he's kind of running rings around Paul, letting him run up debts, and then he says, "I'll take your debts," and then he goes to see Kitty, his own wife, as Hyde, and says, "You can buy these debts back from me, if you sleep with me," kind of thing. She kind of says, no. She says, he goes, "Yeah, but you've given it away before," kind of thing. She says, "But I love Paul." It's kind of like that, isn't it? But anyway, he rapes her. It appears he certainly attacks her.
Well, it's fairly it's kind of unambiguous.
Okay.
It cuts away from him tearing her shirt off, and the next we see of her, she's got like choke marks around her neck, and she's just in like lingerie.
And she's in despair, isn't it? In fact, she throws herself off this building at this point. She's kind of distraught, which I didn't expect. I was expecting he was going to get caught out by them or something, but it didn't turn out that way at all. He tops Christopher Lee with the snake, doesn't he?
Yeah. There were like quite a lot of points where it seems like they're going to set up like a murder. So there's a bit where Hyde's just sort of hanging out in a bar.
Yeah.
And all these women approach him, and like this older gentleman, he's like, "Oh, you met my sisters
niece.
and my niece," and they're like just sort of chatting, and it's quite clear that there's some sort of scam going on.
Yeah.
But he like starts to go with the women, and the older fella follows up and basically just starts assaulting him. And like I was expecting for the old gentleman to come around the corner and like Hyde be in the middle of choking one of the women, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because isn't that how the book starts? It's like, oh, Hyde just
he
murdered someone in the middle of a street.
He tramples a girl.
Yeah.
He tramples a young girl. He just runs across her.
Yeah.
In fact, he does run across a guy at one point in this, doesn't he? A tramp.
Yeah.
He just steps over him.
Like, yeah. That's kind of the only bit from the books that I can
Yeah, I think you're right.
So,
anyway, basically they've killed themselves. Then he's switching between Hyde and Jekyll. Jekyll doesn't want Hyde back. Hyde wants to take control. And there's like a bit in a mirror where they're talking to each other, which I think, didn't they do a mirror bit in one of the Hulk films?
They've done it in a couple of films.
Okay.
They've probably done it in like the 60s series a lot. But the one everyone remembers is Ang Lee's Hulk, where he's like wiping the mist off the mirror and Hulk is there. So.
Yeah. And there's it's a kind of a bit of a trope that when you've got an alter ego, they can talk for a mirror. I think there was some stuff like that in Superman 3 as well. And it's kind of interesting, like Hyde saying, I don't, I want to be myself.
Yeah.
But he's laughing at Jekyll because Jekyll, he says, I can't get rid of you without getting rid of myself and all this sort of stuff. And at one point, it's getting towards the end of the film. He calls a bloke in to help move a hamper, a tradesman off the street, and just shoots him. But leads him against a desk and then starts a fight. Starts throwing.
Well, he starts dumping
out.
petrol everywhere. Shoots the corpse in the head again. And then runs out into the police after he set the place on fire.
Yeah.
And said, Jekyll's got mad, he shot himself and he set the place on fire and shot himself.
Very fast thinking this, because he's setting it all up when the police start knocking on the door. Looks at the window, instantly forms a plan. Pretends that Jekyll was attacking him and he shot himself in the head and started the fire. And the police go in and they believe him, don't they? And they think the body is Jekyll, don't they?
Yeah.
That's why he shot the bloke.
DNA, so they can't really counter it.
And it ends unusually, because pretty much every version of this story, Jekyll and Hyde, but Jekyll dies, right?
Yeah.
But in this one, it doesn't.
Sort of gets away. So.
Yeah, in this one, it looks like Hyde's going to get away with it, but at the last minute, he turns back to Jekyll in front of everyone. Which is very Nutty Professor.
Yeah.
As well. So, not a bad film. I quite like. Some of the reviews were a bit scathing. Mostly it was mixed and negative. One a critic from the New York Times said that Paul Massey's central performance was ridiculous, which I don't agree with at all. I think it was really good, actually.
I mean, it was quite silly because it was a lot of him.
Oh, silly, yeah.
To put it in perspective for anyone who's not seen it, which is, I'm guessing, is most of our listeners.
Yeah.
As Jekyll, it's just Paul Massey with these massive like clumps of fake beard stuck onto his face, and doing like an overly deep voice. He's going, "Oh yes, that's my science leads to this."
He puts on a different voice completely for Jekyll and Hyde, and we see him in a scene doing the two voices talking to each other, which is kind of reminiscent of like Gollum scenes in Lord of the Rings movies. I thought it was a really good performance, actually. I really liked it. I thought it was. I felt Hyde didn't look like Jekyll. There was.
There was enough
in some
difference
versions you say, well, that's obviously that bloke. Yeah. So why doesn't anyone realise it? But not in this.
Nah.
I thought it was fine.
Though, to be fair, it was kind of weird that he looks like a younger version of Jekyll. but the person who's supposed to have been his friend for like, since they were children, doesn't like twig on at all.
Maybe, yeah. Because he's also got a slightly higher brow, hasn't he, Jekyll, as well? So there is a bit of difference. This is one of the very few Hammer films I haven't seen before. And I thought it was going to be mediocre. But actually, I enjoyed it way more. I think because I went in with such low expectations, I enjoyed it all the more, actually. Because it wasn't like bland. I thought it was interesting. And one I think a lot of people probably haven't seen, because I don't think this one was ever on telly, whereas all the other Hammer stuff was,
Yeah.
I don't recall it ever being shown on telly. There is another version of the story done by Hammer later on, which is called Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, which is way more lurid and fun kind of thing.
Yeah.
Imagine this is pretty fun. So yeah, not bad. So next time we cover a Hammer film, I don't think it'll be 9 months. I think we'll do it sooner than that. It's Curse of the Werewolf with Oliver Reed. So Oliver Reed's already appeared in one of these, so he's the central character in the next one. So that's cool. Right, okay. Any final thoughts before we go?
Not really. I've kind of said everything.
Yeah, I pretty much said it. The only thing I will add is I really like the music. I thought the music was really good as well. It had a certain sort of, I don't know, it reminded me of Hushabye Mountain on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah, it was kind of there.
Yeah, weird. But yeah, I really liked it. Yeah, okay, let's wind it up there then. So bye from me.
Bye.